In February 2017, a mysterious attack took place at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. A man told security guards that someone had put a substance on his face and that he didn't feel well. Within minutes, he collapsed to the ground and died shortly after. Video footage showed two young women, one Indonesian, the other Vietnamese. Both said the same thing. It was just a prank. But this was not part of any comedy show. This is the story of one of the most shocking and best planned assassinations of the modern era. How two innocent women, without realizing it, became instruments in a covert state operation because the victim was not an ordinary person. He was the older half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un, and this was a state-planned murder. Siti Aisyah was born in 1992 in a small village inside the forests of Indonesia. Her family was very poor. There were 3 siblings and their income barely covered food. For that reason, Siti was not sent to school. As she grew up, she worked a variety of jobs to help her family. At 14, a relative told her she could find work in a textile workshop in the capital, Jakarta. The villagers saw city life as dangerous. Siti, shaped by what she had seen on television, imagined a bright life in the city. She had to help her family. The village could not sustain them, so she moved to the capital. In a medium-sized textile workshop, she worked 13 hours a day for $50 a month, sweeping a 1,000 square meter area. Years later, she married the owner's son. They had a son. Their marriage ended in 2012, and Siti returned to her family as a single mother, caring for her child while trying to support her parents. Life in the small village was no longer enough. She needed higher earnings to shoulder the family burden. She left her son with relatives and went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's capital, seeking better opportunities. After a few months, she found a live-in job as a masseuse at a hotel called Flamingo. But that job was only a cover. Under the name of masseuse, she worked as an escort. It's hard to say she liked the job, but she had no other option. Her family and child needed the income, and she earned much more than in previous jobs. Siti was a woman with big dreams. Like other women at the hotel, she wanted to be a model, singer, or actress. She believed a luxurious, rich, entertaining life would come for her. In January 2017, after finishing work at the massage parlor, she went to the beach club in Kuala Lumpur. That night she had no clients and was alone. The evening hadn't gone as she'd hoped. While sitting on the pavement, a taxi driver she knew, John, approached. John said a Japanese man named James was looking for women to appear on a TV show. Siti thought it over and they agreed to meet the next day. The next morning, John picked Siti up from the hotel and took her to a luxury shopping mall. There she met a well-dressed man who looked Japanese, around 30, who introduced himself as James. He presented himself as a Japanese TV producer who made hidden camera prank shows. When he asked, "Have you ever acted before?" Siti answered, "No, but I'd like to try." James said the work was easy and paid well. For the first test prank, she was asked to smear baby oil on a Vietnamese woman's face while the camera was recording. Siti agreed and was paid $100. She was told each prank would pay $100 to $200. This was a big opportunity. She could make in one day what she couldn't earn in weeks at her previous job. She would approach random people in the mall, smear their faces with baby oil, then apologize. She accepted. After that decision, her life changed completely. She was no longer a masseuse. She became someone who flew around the country shooting prank videos. With James's invitation, Siti began doing pranks in Kuala Lumpur's malls, hotels, and airports. Each prank carried a different fee. The money allowed her to quit her old job. James's bosses began sending messages. Siti's videos were exceeding expectations. Whenever she wanted to see the footage, James would say, "It's still in editing. I don't want you to watch before it's ready." Then James said a big prank would be made and that the timing would be set by the bosses. In early February, the airport pranks began. It was announced that the real prank would take place on the 13th of February and that it would be the biggest prank ever done. Rehearsal pranks were quickly carried out. On the night of 12th February, Siti, James, and the crew spent the evening at the Hard Rock Cafe in Kuala Lumpur. For Siti, this was the last innocent night before tomorrow's big prank. James introduced her to Doan Huang. Doan was Vietnamese and, like Siti, struggling financially. James told them they would be working together and that the person to be pranked was a member of the crew who could not make it that day. While everyone was having fun, James's phone rang. He got excited by an incoming message. He turned to Siti saying, "You must see this." Siti looked at the screen, but the message was in Chinese and she did not understand. The message said the boss rated Siti's prank videos highly, liked them a lot, and believed this work would make her a star. She was made to feel ready for the big prank. On the morning of the 13th of February, Siti left the hotel early. They were to meet at a cafe in the airport. James would brief them on the third person to be pranked. James arrived first. Soon, Siti appeared on camera. James, Siti, and the other actress, Doan Huang, waited for the third actor to emerge. At 9 o'clock, James pointed to an overweight, middle-aged man in the crowd wearing jeans, a gray jacket, and carrying a backpack. The man entered the airport and walked toward the check-in counter. Siti took out a bottle of perfume she would spray on the man's face. Doan took out an oily, sticky substance from her bag. This substance was different from the liquids used in previous pranks. Before the man reached the counter, the women moved. Doan approached from behind, and Siti stepped in front to stop him. Doan grabbed the man and smeared the cloth-dipped substance onto his face. Siti sprayed the perfume. Together they shouted, "It was a prank, sorry," and fled in different directions through the crowd. They went to the restroom to wash the perfume and oil from their hands. After leaving the restroom, Siti went to the rendezvous point in the airport. No one was there. Half an hour passed, still no one. Siti messaged James and called repeatedly, but he did not answer. Tired of waiting, she took a taxi back to her hotel. She collapsed onto the bed. When she woke and checked her phone, there were no calls or messages. She had no idea why James and the crew had abandoned her. She did not have contact information for the other actors or crew. Completely helpless, she didn't know what to do. She had spent the last 4 weeks with these people and had quit the hotel job for the prank work. Now she had no income. Frustrated, she decided to return to her family. 2 days after the prank, she packed her things and left the hotel. She was at the airport to fly to Indonesia when numerous heavily armed police rushed at her from behind. Instinctively, she stepped aside, but the officers didn't pass by. They approached and arrested her. Siti was handcuffed. The producers had likewise cut all contact with Doan. When Doan returned to the airport the next day, hoping to find the production team, she was arrested too. A trial that shocked the world began. They were charged with murder. This was not a simple homicide charge. They were accused of murdering with VX nerve agent, a chemical weapon developed for military use. At the police station, they were told they were implicated in the death of a head of state's brother. Under Malaysian law, that crime carries the death penalty. The two women did not understand the situation they had been exposed to. What murder? Who was killed? They reacted. It was impossible for those young women to grasp the meaning of what they had done. After Doan smeared the cloth on the third man's face and Siti sprayed perfume, the man went into shock. He approached an officer saying, "They put a liquid on my face. I feel dizzy. My eyes burn." He stood unsteady, his face entirely wet, and his speech slurred. Airport staff and a police officer took him to the medical clinic. Shortly afterward, he showed signs of paralysis and choking. In the clinic setting, he began to lose consciousness. He was put on a stretcher and taken to an ambulance. He died before reaching the hospital. Only 20 minutes had passed since the prank. Clinic footage shows a person in black clothing carrying a suitcase slow down and look into the clinic as he walked by. That person looked like an agent monitoring the death. The operation was detailed, like something out of a spy novel. James was actually North Korean. A total of 5 North Korean agents operated at the airport. Lookouts, a chemist responsible for the nerve agent, and a team leader with the codename Big Father were involved. Siti and Doan had been unwittingly prepared for a murder. James and the others were not producers. There was no prank show. In reality, it was a planned operation. They were working for the North Korean government. The man codenamed James was actually a North Korean agent named Riji. The mission was so secret that participants had to live covert lives for a long time. Doan and Siti were persuaded the task was only a prank. The profiles chosen were vulnerable young women who knew nothing. Rehearsals were carried out under the name Prank, and nothing was ever broadcast. When Siti and Doan genuinely believed it was a prank, the operation was executed. On the morning of the 13th of February, 2017, at the airport, the perfume given to Siti was not perfume. The substance Doan applied was not baby oil. These were components of the VX nerve agent. The material applied to the victim's face turned out to be a banned lethal weapon. Colorless, odorless, and similar to motor oil, this liquid is said to be 100 times more lethal than sarin gas. A very small amount is enough to kill. 10 milligrams of VX absorbed through the skin can close the windpipe and cause death by asphyxiation. The dose applied was so high the victim died within minutes. Why were 2 women used? Couldn't the operation be done with 1 person? The answer, no. The attack could only succeed with 2 people because the chemical components were harmless separately, but when combined, formed a deadly poison. That is why Siti and Doan had to act together. The operation was planned with extreme detail and care. Why were James and his crew not at the meeting point after the prank? Because they left the country as soon as the operation was completed. 4 North Korean agents were watching the women at the airport. Once the women completed the task, the agents changed clothes, completed formalities, and flew home, accompanied by an official from the North Korean embassy. It turned out Siti and Doan had been part of one of the largest political assassinations in recent history, because the so-called third actor was not an actor at all. He was Kim Jong-Nam, one of the world's most significant political figures, and the assassination is believed to have been ordered by his brother Kim Jong-Un. Kim Jong-Nam, born in 1971 as the eldest son of North Korea's previous leader Kim Jong-il, was once destined to lead the country. Educated in Switzerland, he was appointed to the security ministry. But in May 2001, he was arrested at Japan's Narita International Airport with a forged Dominican Republic passport. That scandal destroyed his credibility at home, and power shifted to his younger brother Kim Jong-Un. When Kim Jong-Un came to power in 2011, it is known that about 400 people who posed a threat to his family and rule were executed. Kim Jong-nam lived in exile in Macau, the Chinese autonomous region. He was monitored by the regime and considered a potential rival to Kim Jong-un. His contacts with American intelligence reportedly drew Kim Jong-un's attention. After all these events, it seemed a reckoning had come. He knew his life was at risk and was aware that his brother was after him. On the day he died, he had bottles of antidote in his bag, but those bottles could not save him from the assassination. What remained were Siti and Doan. Initially, they were charged with murder, a crime that in Malaysia could mean the death penalty. Both denied the charges. They said their actions had been part of a prank show. They spent 2 years in prison. Later became clear they were victims. The charges were rapidly dropped, and they were released. Airport security camera footage clearly showed the women were unaware of what was happening. The activity framed as a prank actually involved a component of a highly lethal nerve agent. After their release, they returned to their families. James and his crew had told them, "I'm a talent scout. The world will know you." The man kept his word, but not in the way they thought. Their notoriety came in another form. So how could an assassination take place so openly? The agents at the airport did not even bother to hide their faces. That might look like a mistake, but the real purpose was different. The North Korean regime wanted to send a clear message to the world, an open warning that anyone who stands in Kim Jong-un's way will be found eventually, even if that person is a member of his own family.